Hello. I think that we will get started now. Um, Welcome to Brooklyn Public Library and Theater 2020's collaboration. We are presenting Theater 2020 in a virtual way, the Brooklyn Heights branch of the Brooklyn Public Library. We're very excited. We have had Theater 2020 come and visit us at the library for several years now, and it's wonderful to be able to do it in virtual form. Brooklyn Heights Library is currently offering lobby service for holds, pickup, and book returns out of the new Center for Brooklyn History. It's Brooklyn Heights Library at the Center for Brooklyn History. And please come and see us, and we're serving the Brooklyn Heights community in that way at this time. The Center for Brooklyn History is a merger between the Brooklyn Historical Society and Brooklyn Public Library. It will be a large research library and education center at 128 Pierpont Street, which is very exciting. And we'll have our new Brooklyn Public Library back at Cadman Plaza this fall. Please remember to turn your video off for the duration of the program. I'm very excited to introduce Theater 2020 and the co-artistic director, David Fuller, who is going to tell you a little bit about what to expect today.
Thank you, Rachel. Welcome, everyone. I am David Fuller, and I send greetings to theater lovers around the globe. On behalf of Theater 2020, co-producing artistic director Judith Jaros and myself, welcome to our Hearthside reading series online. We have presented this series at the Brooklyn Heights Library branch of the Brooklyn Public Library for many seasons. We are proud to continue this program online during these times when we cannot quite yet gather safely in person. The library and the arts are precious commodities to all humankind, and we thank Rachel Tiemann and the Brooklyn Public Library for their support of the arts and of our organization. The arts cannot survive without help. If you enjoy this presentation, we encourage you to visit us at our website, theater2020.com. That's theater2020.com, to show your support and to join our email list. Your information will not be shared, and any support at all is greatly appreciated. Now please join us afterwards for a short talkback with our artists. And thank you again for joining us. And please enjoy these two short comedies, Overruled by George Bernard Shaw and Combustible, a sanitized love story by Theater 2020 resident playwright Lynn Marie Macy.
Don't be horrid. Please, Mr. Long. Promise me you won't be horrid.
I'm not being horrid, Mrs. Juno. I'm not going to be horrid. I love you. That's all. I'm extraordinarily happy.
No, you will really be good.
I'll be whatever you wish me to be. I tell you I love you. I love loving you. I don't want to be tired and sorry as I should be if I were to be horrid. I don't want you to be tired and sorry. Do come and sit down again.
No, you're sure you don't want anything you oughtn't to?
Quite sure. I only want you. Don't be alarmed. I like wanting you. As long as I have a want, I have a reason for living. Satisfaction is death.
Yes, but the impulse to commit suicide is sometimes irresistible.
Not with you.
What?
Oh, it sounds uncomplimentary, but it isn't really. Do you know why half the couples who find themselves situated as we are now behave horridly?
Because they can't help it if they let things go too far.
Not a bit of it. It's because they have nothing else to do and no other way of entertaining each other. You don't know what it is to be alone with a woman who has little beauty and less conversation. What is a man to do? She can't talk interestingly, and if he talks that way himself, she doesn't understand him. He can't look at her. If he does, he only finds out that she isn't beautiful. Before the end of 5 minutes, they are both hideously bored. There's only one thing that can save the situation, and that's what you call being horrid. With a beautiful, witty, kind woman, there's no time for such follies. It's so delightful to look at her, to listen to her voice, to hear all she has to say, that nothing else happens. That is why the woman who is supposed to have 1,000 lovers seldom has one, whilst the stupid, graceless animals of women have dozens.
I wonder. Well, it's quite true that when one feels in danger, one talks like mad to stave it off, even when one doesn't quite want to stave it off.
One never does quite want to stave it off. Danger is delicious, but death isn't. We court the danger, but the real delight is in escaping, after all.
I don't think we'll talk about it anymore. Danger is all very well when you do escape, but sometimes one doesn't. I tell you frankly, I don't feel as safe as you do, if you really do.
But surely you can do as you please without injuring anyone, Mrs. Juno. That is the whole secret of your extraordinary charm for me.
I don't understand.
Well, I hardly know how to begin to explain, but the root of the matter is that I am what people call a good man.
I thought so until you began making love to me.
But you knew I loved you all along.
Yes, of course. But I depended on you not to tell me so, because I thought you were good. Your blurting it out spoiled it. And it was wicked besides.
Not at all. You see, it's a great many years since I've been able to allow myself to fall in love. I know lots of charming women, but the worst of it is they're all married. Women don't become charming, to my taste, until they're fully developed. And by that time, if they're really nice, they're snapped up and married. And then, because I am a good man, I have to place a limit to my regard for them. I may be fortunate enough to gain friendship and even very warm affection from them, but my loyalty to their husbands and their hearths and their happiness obliges me to draw a line and not overstep it. Of course, I value such affectionate regard very highly indeed. I am surrounded with women who are most dear to me, but every one of them has a post sticking up, if I may put it that way, with the inscription, "Trespassers will be prosecuted." How we all loathe that notice. In every lovely garden, in every dell full of primroses, on every fair hillside, we meet that confounded board, and there is always a gamekeeper around the corner. But what is that to the horror of meeting it on every beautiful woman and knowing that there is a husband round the corner? I have had this accursed board standing between me and every dear and desirable woman until I thought I had lost the power of letting myself fall really and wholeheartedly in love.
Wasn't there a widow?
No. Widows are extraordinarily scarce in modern society. Husbands live longer than they used to, and even when they do die, their widows have a string of names down for their necks.
Well, what about the young girls?
Oh, who cares for young girls? They're sympathetic. They're beginners. They don't attract me. I'm afraid of them.
Well, that's the correct thing to say to a woman of my age. But it doesn't explain why you seem to have put your scruples in your pocket when you met me.
Surely that's quite clear.
No, please don't explain. I don't want to know. I take your word for it. Besides, it doesn't matter now. Our voyage is over, and tomorrow I start for the north to my poor father's place.
Your poor father? I thought he was alive.
So he is. What made you think he wasn't?
You said your poor father.
Oh, that's a trick of mine, and rather a silly trick, I suppose. But there's something pathetic to me about men. I find myself calling them poor so-and-so when there's nothing whatever the matter with them.
But well, oh Lord.
Oh, what's the matter?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh, nonsense. You're ill.
No, it was something about your late husband.
My late husband? No, what do you mean? Oh, no, don't tell me he's dead.
Don't tell me he's alive.
Oh, don't frighten me like this. Of course he's alive, unless you've heard anything.
The first day we met on the boat, you spoke to me of your poor, dear husband.
Oh, is that all?
Well, afterward, you called him poor Tops. Always, poor Tops, our poor dear Tops. What could I think?
Oh, I wish you hadn't given me such a shock about him, for I haven't been treating him at all well, and neither have you.
And you mean to tell me you're not a widow?
Oh, gracious, no. Oh, I'm not in black.
But I've been behaving like a blackguard. I have broken my promise to my mother. I shall never have an easy conscience again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you knew.
You thought I was a libertine.
Well, no, of course. I shouldn't have spoken to you if I had thought that. I thought you liked me, but that you knew and would be good.
I thought the burden of being good had fallen from my soul at last. I saw nothing there but a bosom to rest on, the bosom of a lovely woman of whom I could dream without guilt. What do I see now?
Just what you saw before.
No, no.
Oh, what else?
Trespassers will be prosecuted. Trespassers will be prosecuted.
No, they won't if they hold their tongues. Don't be such a coward. My husband won't eat you.
I'm not afraid of your husband. I'm afraid of my conscience.
Well, I don't consider myself at all a badly behaved woman, for nothing has passed between us that was not perfectly nice and friendly. But really, to hear a grown-up man talking about promises to his mother.
Yes, yes, I know all about that. It's not romantic. It's not Don Juan. It's not advanced. But we feel it all the same. It's far deeper in our blood and bones than all the romantic stuff. My father got into a scandal once. That was why my mother made me promise never to make love to a married woman. And now I've done it, I can't feel honest. Don't pretend to despise or laugh at me. You feel it too. You said just now that your own conscience was uneasy when you thought of your husband. What must it be when you think of my wife?
Your wife? You don't dare sit there and tell me cruelly that you're a married man.
I led you to believe I was unmarried.
You never gave me the faintest hint that you had a wife.
I did indeed. I discussed things with you that only married people really understand.
No.
I thought it the most delicate way of letting you know.
Well, you are a daisy. Oh, I must say, I suppose that's vulgar, but really, you and your goodness. However, now we found one another out, there's only one thing to be done. Will you please go?
I ought to go.
Well, go.
Yes. I somehow can't. My conscience is active. My will is paralyzed. This is really dreadful. Would you mind ringing the bell and asking them to throw me out? You ought to, you know.
Oh, what? Make a scandal in the face of the whole hotel? Certainly not. Don't be a fool.
Yes, but I can't go.
Well, then I can. Goodbye.
Can you really?
Of course oh dear. I can't.
For heaven's sake, pull yourself together. It's a question of self-control.
No, it's a question of distance. Self-control is all very well 2 or 3 yards off, or on a ship with everybody looking on. Don't come any nearer.
This is a ghastly business. I want to go away and I can't.
I think you ought to go. But if you try, I shall grab you round the neck and disgrace myself. Oh, I implore you to sit still and be nice.
I implore you to run away. I believe I can trust myself to let you go for your own sake, but it will break my heart.
I don't want to break your heart. I can't bear to think of you sitting here alone. I can't bear to think of sitting alone myself somewhere else. Oh, it's so senseless, so ridiculous, when we might be so happy. I don't want to be wicked or coarse. Oh, but I like you very much, and I do want to be affectionate and human.
I ought to draw a line.
So you shall, dear. Tell me, do you really like me? No, I don't mean love me. You might love the housemaid.
No.
Oh, yes, you might. And what does that matter anyhow? Are you really fond of me? I mean, are we friends? Comrades, would you be sorry if I died?
Oh, don't.
Or was it the usual aimless man's lark, a mere shipboard flirtation?
Oh, no, no, nothing half so bad, so vulgar, so wrong. I assure you I only meant to be agreeable. It grew on me before I noticed it.
You were glad to let it grow.
I let it grow because the board was not up.
Oh, bother the board. Oh, I am just as fond of Sibthorpe as I was.
Sibthorpe?
Sibthorpe is my husband's Christian name. Well, I oughtn't to call him Tops to you now.
It sounded like something to drink, but I have no right to laugh at him. My Christian name is Gregory, which sounds like a powder.
Oh, that is so like a man. I offer you my heart's warmest, friendliest feeling, and you think of nothing but a silly joke. A quip like that makes you forget me.
Oh, if I only could.
If you could, would you?
No, I'd die first. Oh, I hate myself.
Oh, I glory in myself. Oh, it's so surely to be reckless. Can a man be reckless, I wonder?
No, I'm not reckless. I know what I'm doing. My conscience is awake. Oh, where is the intoxication of love, the delirium, the madness that makes a man think the world well lost for the woman he loves? I don't think anything of the sort. I see that it's not worth it. I know that it's wrong. I have never in my life been cooler, more businesslike.
Oh, but you can't resist me.
I must. I ought. Oh, my darling, my treasure, we shall be sorry for this.
Oh, we can forgive ourselves. Could we forgive ourselves if we let this moment slip?
I protest to the last. I'm against this. I have been pushed over a precipice. I'm innocent. This wild joy, this exquisite tenderness, this ascent into heaven can thrill me to the uttermost fibre of my heart. But it can't subdue my mind or corrupt my conscience, which still shouts to the skies that I'm not a willing party to this outrageous conduct. I repudiate the bliss with which you are filling me.
Oh, never mind your conscience. Tell me how happy you are.
No, I recall you to your duty, but oh, I will give you my life with both hands if you can tell me that you feel for me 1,000,000th part of what I feel for you now.
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Be satisfied with that. Ask for no more. Oh, let me go.
I can't. I have no will. Something stronger than either of us is in command here. Nothing on earth or in heaven can part us now. You know that, don't you?
Oh, don't make me say it. Of course I know nothing. Not life, nor death, nor shame, nor anything can part us.
All right, this must be it.
That did it.
Shh, 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 shh. That was my husband's voice.
Impossible. It's only our guilty fancy.
This is the way to the lounge, I know it.
Great heaven, we're both mad. That's my wife's voice.
Oh, ridiculous. Oh, we are dreaming it all.
Here we are. Sit down. I'm sure you're tired. That's right. Hello. This sofa's quite warm.
Is it? I didn't notice. I expect the sun's been on it.
I felt it quite distinctly. I'm more thinly clad than you. What a relief to get off the ship and have a private room. That's the worst of a ship. You're under observation all the time.
But why not?
Well, of course, there's no reason. At least I suppose not. But, you know, part of the romance of a journey is that a man keeps imagining that something might happen, and he can't do that if there are a lot of people about, and it simply can't happen.
Romance is all very well and good on board ship, but when your foot touches the soil of England, there's an end of it.
No, believe me, that's a foreigner's mistake. We are the most romantic people in the world, we English. Why, my very presence here is a romance.
Indeed.
Yes, you've guessed, of course, that I'm a married man.
Oh, that's all right. I'm a married woman.
Thank heaven for that. To my English mind, passion is not real passion without guilt. I am a red-blooded man, Mrs. Lunn. I can't help it. The tragedy of my life is that I married, when quite young, a woman whom I couldn't help being very fond of. I longed for a guilty passion, for the real thing, the wicked thing, and yet I couldn't care tuppence for any other woman when my wife was about. Year after year went by. I felt my youth slipping away without ever having had a romance in my life. For marriage is all very well, but it isn't romance. There's nothing wrong in it, you see.
Poor man, how you must have suffered.
No, that was what was so tame about it. I wanted to suffer. You get so sick of being happily married. It's always the happy marriages that break up. At last, my wife and I agreed that we ought to take a holiday.
Hadn't you holidays every year?
Oh, the seaside and so on. That's not what we meant. We meant a holiday from one another.
How very odd.
She said it was an excellent idea. The domestic felicity was making us perfectly idiotic, that she wanted a holiday too. So we agreed to go round the world in opposite directions. I started for Suez, and on the day that she sailed for New York.
That's precisely what Gregory and I did. Now, I wonder, did he want a holiday from me? What he said was that he wanted the delight of meeting me after a long absence.
Could anything be more romantic than that? Would anyone else than an Englishman have thought of it? I dare say my temperament seems tame to your boiling southern blood.
My what?
Your southern blood. Don't you remember how you told me that night in the saloon when I sang "Farewell and adieu to my dear Spanish ladies," that you were by birth a lady of Spain? Your splendid Andalusian beauty speaks for itself.
Oh, stuff. I was born in Gibraltar. My father was Captain Jenkins in the artillery.
It is climate and not race that determines the temperament. The fiery sun of Spain blazed on your cradle, and it rocked to the roar of British cannon.
What eloquence. It reminds me of my husband when he was in love before we were married. Are you in love?
Yes, and with the same woman.
Well, of course, I didn't suppose you were in love with two women.
I don't think you quite understand. I meant that I am in love with you.
Oh, that. Men do fall in love with me. They all seem to think me a creature with volcanic passions. I'm sure I don't know why, for all the volcanic women I know are plain little creatures with sandy hair. I don't consider human volcanoes respectable, and I'm so tired of the subject. Our house is always full of women who are in love with my husband and men who are in love with me. We encourage it because it's pleasant to have company.
And is your husband as insensible as yourself?
No, Gregory's not insensible, very far from it, but I am the only woman in the world for him.
But you, are you really as insensible as you say you are?
I've never said anything of the kind. I'm not at all insensible by nature, but I don't know whether you've noticed it. I am what people call a rather fine figure of a woman.
Noticed it? Oh, Mrs. Lunn, have I been able to notice anything else since we met?
There you go, like all the rest of them. I ask you, how do you expect a woman to keep up what you call her sensibility when this sort of thing has happened to her about 3 times a week ever since she was 17? It used to upset me and terrify me at first. Then I got rather a taste for it. It came to a climax with Gregory, that is why I married him. Then became a mild lark, hardly worth the trouble. After that, I found it valuable once or twice as a spinal tonic when I was run down. Now, it's an unmitigated bore. I don't mind your declaration. I dare say it gives you a certain pleasure to make it. I quite understand that you adore me, but if you don't mind, I'd rather you didn't keep on saying so.
Is there then no hope for me?
Oh, yes. Gregory has an idea that married women keep lists of the men they'll marry if they become widows. I'll put your name down if that will satisfy you.
Is the list a long one?
You mean the real list? Not the one I show Gregory. There are hundreds of names on that. But the little private list that he'd better not see.
Oh, will you really put me on that? Say you will.
Yeah, perhaps I will. Oh, no, don't go abusing privilege.
May I call you by your Christian name?
Oh, no, it's too long. You can't go about calling a woman Seraphita.
Seraphita.
I used to be called Sally at home, but when I married a man, named Lunn. Of course, that became ridiculous. That's my one little pet joke. Call me Mrs. Lunn for short, and change the subject or I shall go to sleep.
No, I can't change the subject. For me, there is no other subject. Why else have you put me on your list?
Because you're a solicitor. Gregory's a solicitor. I'm accustomed to my husband being a solicitor and telling me things he oughtn't to tell anybody.
Is that all? Oh, I can't believe that the voice of love has ever thoroughly awakened you.
No, it sends me to sleep. Oh, it's no use, Mr. Juno. I'm hopelessly respectable. The Jenkinsons always were. Don't you realize that unless most women were like that, the world couldn't go on as it does?
You think it goes on respectably, but I can tell you, as a solicitor...
Oh, stuff. Of course all the disreputable people who get into trouble go to you, just as all the people who are sick go to the doctors. But most people never go to a solicitor.
Look here, Mrs. Lunn. Do you think a man's heart is a potato, or a turnip, or a ball of knitting wool that you can throw it away like this?
I don't throw away balls of knitting wool. A man's heart seems to me much like a sponge. It soaks up dirty water as well as clean.
I have never been treated like this in all my life. Here I am, a married man with a most attractive wife, a wife I adore, and who adores me, and has never as much as looked at any other man since we were married. I come and throw all this at your feet. I, a solicitor, braving the risk of your husband putting me into the divorce court and making me a beggar and an outcast. I do this for your sake. You go on as if I were making no sacrifice, if I had told you as if it's a fine evening, or asked you to have a cup of tea. It's inhuman. It's not right. Love has its rights as well as respectability.
Oh, nonsense. Here is a flower. Go on and dream over it until you feel hungry. Nothing brings people to their senses like hunger.
What good's this?
Oh, you don't love me at all.
Yes, I do. Or at least I did. But I'm an Englishman, and I think you ought to respect the conventions of English life.
But I am respecting them, and you're not.
Pardon me. I may be doing wrong, but I'm doing it in a proper and customary manner. You may be doing right, but you're doing it in an unusual and questionable manner. I am not prepared to put up with that. I can stand being badly treated. I'm no baby, and I can take care of myself with anybody. Of course, I can stand being well treated. The thing I can't stand is being unexpectedly treated. It's outside my scheme of life. So come now. You've got to behave naturally and straightforwardly with me. You can leave husband and child, home, friends, and country for my sake and come with me to some southern isle or say South America. We can all be all in all to one another. Or you can tell your husband and let him jolly well punch my head if he can. But I'm damned if I'm going to stand any eccentricity. It's not respectable.
Will you have the goodness, sir, in addressing this lady to keep your temper and refrain from using profane language?
Oh, Gregory, darling. Oh.
You make love to another man to my face.
Why, he's my husband.
That takes away the last rag of excuse for such conduct. A nice word it would be if married people were to carry on their endearments before everybody.
This is ridiculous. What the devil business is it of yours what passes between my wife and myself? You're not her husband, are you?
Not at present, but I'm on the list. I'm her prospective husband. You're only her actual one. I'm the anticipation. You're the disappointment.
Oh, my Gregory is not a disappointment, are you, dear?
You just wait, my pet. I'll settle this chap for you. You call me a disappointment, do you? Well, I suppose every husband's a disappointment. What about yourself? Don't try to look like an unmarried man. I happen to know the lady you disappointed. I traveled in the same ship with her, and...
And you fell in love with her.
Who told you that?
Aha! You confess it. Well, if you want to know, nobody told me. Everybody falls in love with my wife.
And do you fall in love with everybody's wife?
Certainly not. Only with yours.
But what's the good of saying that, Mr. Juno? I am married to him, and there's an end of it.
Not at all. You can get a divorce.
What for?
for his misconduct with my wife.
How dare you, sir, asperse the character of that sweet lady, a lady whom I have taken under my protection?
Protection?
Really? You must be more careful what you say about me, Mr. Lunn.
My precious... Pardon this betrayal of my feeling, but I've not seen my wife for several weeks, and she is very dear to me.
I call this cheek. Who is making love to his own wife before people now pray?
Won't you introduce me to your wife, Mr. Juno?
Oh, how do you do?
I am so glad to find you do credit to Gregory's taste. I'm naturally rather particular about the women he falls in love with.
This is no way to take your husband's unfaithfulness. You want to teach your wife better manners. Where's her feelings? It's scandalous.
What about your own conduct, pray?
I don't defend it, and there's an end to the matter.
Well, upon my soul, what difference does your not defending it make?
A fundamental difference. To serious people, I may appear wicked. I don't defend myself. I am wicked, though not bad at heart. To thoughtless people, I may even appear comic. Well, laugh at me. I have given myself away. But Mrs. Lunn seems to have no opinion at all about me. She doesn't seem to know whether I'm wicked or comic. She doesn't seem to care. She has no more sense. I say it's not right. I repeat, I have sinned, and I'm prepared to suffer.
Oh, have you really sinned, Tops?
I don't remember your sinning. I have a shocking bad memory for trifles, but I think I should remember that, if you mean me.
Trifles? I have fallen in love with a monster.
Don't you dare call my wife a monster.
Please don't lose your temper, Mr. Lunn. I won't have my Tops bullied.
Well, then let him not brag about sinning with my wife. What pretension has he to any such honor?
I sinned in intention. I'm as guilty as if I had actually sinned. And I insist on being treated as a sinner and not walked over as if I'd done nothing by your wife or any other man.
Tosh.
I won't be belittled.
I hope you will come and stay with us now that you and Gregory are such friends, Mrs. Juno.
This is insane magnanimity.
Well, don't you think you've said enough, Mr. Juno? This is a matter for two women to settle. Won't you take a stroll on the beach with my Gregory while we women talk it over? Gregory is a splendid listener.
I think any good can come in a conversation between Mr. Lunn and myself. We can hardly be expected to improve one another's morals.
Oh, indeed. Oh, all right, if you come to that.
Well, now we are both equally guilty.
Pardon me, I'm not guilty.
In intention. Don't quibble. You were guilty in intention, as I was.
Oh, I should rather describe myself guilty in fact, but not in intention.
No,
What?
really?
Yes, I maintain that I am responsible for my intentions only and not for reflex actions over which I have no control. I promised my mother that I would never tell a lie and that I would never make love to a married woman. I never have told a lie.
Gregory.
I say never. On many occasions, I have resorted to prevarication, but on great occasions, I have always told the truth. I regard this as a great occasion, and I won't be intimidated into breaking my promise. I solemnly declare that I did not know until this evening that Mrs. Juno was married. She will bear me out when I say that from that moment, my intentions were strictly and resolutely honorable, though my conduct, which I could not control and am therefore not responsible for, was disgraceful. Or would have been had this gentleman not walked in and begun making love to my wife under my very nose.
Well, I like this.
Really, darling, there's no use in the pot calling the kettle black.
When you say darling, may I ask which of us you are addressing?
I really don't know. I'm getting hopelessly confused.
Why don't you let my wife say something? I don't think she ought to be thrust into the background like this.
I'm sorry, I'm sure. Please excuse me, dear.
I don't know what to say. I must think it over. I have always been rather severe on this sort of thing, but when it came to the point, I didn't behave as I thought I should behave. Oh, I didn't intend to be wicked, but somehow or other, nature, or whatever you choose to call it, didn't take much notice of my intentions. And I really did think, Tops, that I was the only woman in the world for you.
No, that's all right, my precious. Mrs. Lund thought she was the only woman in the world for him.
So she is, in a sort of way.
And so is my wife. Don't you set up to be a better husband than I am, for you're not. I've owned I'm wrong. You haven't.
Are you sorry, Gregory?
Sorry?
Yes, sorry. I think it's time for you to say you're sorry and to make friends with Mr. Juno before we all dine together.
Seraphita, I promised my mother...
No, bother your mother. I beg your pardon.
A promise is a promise. I can't tell a deliberate lie. I know I ought to be sorry, but the flat fact is that I'm not sorry. I find that in this business, somehow or other, there is a disastrous separation between my moral principles and my conduct.
There's nothing disastrous about it. Doesn't matter about your principles if your conduct is all right.
Bosh, it doesn't matter about your principles if your conduct is all right.
But your conduct isn't all right, and my principles are.
What's the good of your principles being right if they won't work?
They will work, sir, if you exercise self-sacrifice.
Oh, yes, if. You know jolly well that self-sacrifice doesn't work either when you really want a thing. How much have you sacrificed yourself, pray?
Oh, a great deal, Gregory. Don't be rude. Mr. Juno is a very nice man. He's been most attentive to me on the voyage.
And Mrs. Juno's a very nice woman. She oughtn't to be, but she is.
Why oughtn't she be a nice woman, pray?
I mean, she oughtn't to be nice to me, and you oughtn't to be nice to my wife, and your wife oughtn't to like me, and my wife oughtn't to like you. And if they do, they oughtn't to go on liking us, and I oughtn't to like your wife, and you oughtn't to like mine. And if we do, we oughtn't to go on liking them, but we do, all of us. We oughtn't, but we do.
But, my dear boy, if we admit we are in the wrong, where's the harm of it? We're not perfect, but as long as we keep the ideal before us.
How?
By admitting we were wrong.
Oh, well, really, I must have my dinner. These two men with their morality, their promises to their mothers and their admissions that they were wrong and their sinning and suffering, and they're going on at one another as if it meant anything or as if it mattered, are getting on my nerves. If you will be so very good, my dear, as to take my sentimental husband off my hands occasionally, I shall be more than obliged to you. I am sure you can stand more male sentimentality than I can. I, on my part, will do my best to amuse your excellent husband when you find him tiresome.
I call this polyandry.
I wish you wouldn't call innocent things by offensive names, Mr. Juno, what you call your own conduct.
I tell you, I have admitted.
Oh, what's the good of keeping on at that?
Oh, well, if you won't listen to me.
What is the position now exactly? I mean, what are we going to do?
What would you advise, Mr. Juno?
I should advise you to divorce your husband.
Do you want me to drag your wife into court and disgrace her?
No. I forgot that. Excuse me, but for the moment I thought I was married to you.
I think we had better let bygones be bygones. You will forgive me, won't you? Why should you let a moment's forgetfulness embitter all our future life?
But it's Mrs. Lunn who has to forgive you.
Oh, dash it, I forgot. This is getting ridiculous.
I'm getting hungry.
Do you really mind, Mrs. Lunn?
My dear Mrs. Juno, Gregory is one of those terribly uxorious men who ought to have 10 wives. If any really nice woman will take him off my hands for a day or two occasionally, I should be gratefully obliged to her.
Seraphita, you cut me to the soul.
Oh, certainly right. You would think it quite proper if it cut me to the soul.
Am I to take Sibthorpe off your hands too, Mrs. Lunn?
Do you suppose I'll allow this?
Oh, you've admitted that you've done wrong, Tops. What's the use of your allowing or not allowing after that?
I do not admit that I have done wrong. I admit that what I did was wrong.
Can you explain the distinction?
It's quite plain to anyone but an imbecile. If you tell me I've done something wrong, you insult me. But if you say that something that I did is wrong, you simply raise a question of morals. I tell you flatly, if you say I did anything wrong, you will have to fight me. In fact, I think we ought to fight anyhow. I don't particularly want to, but I feel that England expects us to.
I won't fight. If you beat me, my wife would share my humiliation. If I beat you, she would sympathize with you and loathe me for my brutality.
Not to mention that as we are human beings and not reindeer or barn door fowl, if two men presume to fight for us, we couldn't decently ever speak to either of them again.
Besides, neither of us could beat the other, as we neither of us know how to fight. We should only blacken each other's eyes and make fools of ourselves.
I don't admit that. Every Englishman can use his fists.
You're an Englishman. Can you use yours?
I presume so. I never tried.
You never told me you couldn't fight, Tops. I thought you were an accomplished boxer.
My precious, I never gave you any ground for such a belief.
You always talked as if it were a matter of course. You spoke with the greatest contempt of men who didn't kick other men downstairs.
Well, I can't kick Mr. Lunn downstairs. We're on the ground floor.
Yeah, but you could throw him into the harbour.
You want me to be thrown into the harbour?
No, I only want to show Tops that he's making a ghastly fool of himself.
We're all making fools of ourselves.
Well, if we're not going to fight, I must insist at least on your never speaking to my wife again.
Does my speaking to your wife do you any harm?
No, but it's the proper course to take. We must behave with some sort of decency.
Are you never going to speak to me again, Mr. Juno?
I'm prepared to promise never to do so. I think your husband has a right to demand that. Then, if I speak to you after, it will not be his fault. It will be a breach of my promise, and I shall not attempt to defend my conduct.
I shall talk to your wife as often as she'll let me.
I have no objection to your speaking to me, Mr. Lunn.
Then I shall take steps.
What steps?
Steps, measures, proceedings, what steps as may seem advisable.
Can your husband afford a scandal, Mrs. Juno?
No.
Neither can mine.
Mrs. Juno, I'm very sorry to let you in for all this. I don't know how it is that we contrive to make feelings like ours, which seems to me to be beautiful and sacred feelings, and which lead to such interesting and exciting adventures, end in vulgar squabbles and degrading scenes.
I decline to admit that my conduct has been vulgar or degrading.
I promise not.
Look here, old chap. I don't say a word against your mother, and I'm sorry she's dead. But really, you know, most women are mothers, and they all die sometime or other. Yet that doesn't make them infallible authorities on morals, does it?
I was about to say so myself. Let me add that if you do things merely because you think some other fool expects you to do them, and he expects you to do them because he thinks you expect him to expect you to do them, it will end in everybody doing what nobody wants to do, which is, in my opinion, a silly state of things.
Lunn, I love your wife, and that's all about it.
Juno, I love yours. What then?
Clearly, she must never see you again.
Why not?
Why not? My love, I'm surprised at you.
Am I to speak only to men who dislike me?
Yes, I think that is, properly speaking, a married woman's duty.
Then I won't do it. That's flat. I like to be liked. I like to be loved. I want everyone round me to love me. I don't want to meet or speak to anyone who doesn't like me.
But, my precious, this is the most horrible immorality.
I don't intend to give up meeting you, Mr. Juno. You amuse me very much. I don't like being loved. It bores me, but I do like to be amused.
I hope we shall meet very often. I hope also we shall not defend our conduct.
This is unendurable. We've all been flirting. Need we go on footling about it?
I don't know what you call footling.
Oh, you do. You're footling. Mr. Lunn is footling. Can't we admit that we're human and have done with it?
I have admitted it all along.
Then stop footling.
Thank you. heaven. Let's go into dinner. Gregory, take in Mrs. Juno.
But surely I ought to take in our guest and not my own wife.
Well, Mrs. Juno is not your wife, is she?
Oh, of course. I beg your pardon. I'm hopelessly confused.
You seem quite afraid of me.
I am. I simply adore you. I have said to Mrs. Juno that I simply adore her.
Yes, dear. She's a darling. Now, Sibthorpe.
You have called me Sibthorpe. Thank you. I think Lund's conduct fully justifies me in allowing you to do it.
Yes. I think you may let yourself go now.
Seraphita, I worship you beyond expression.
Sibthorpe, you amuse me beyond description. Come.
Well, now, how about that? George Bernard Shaw wrote that in 1912. That's amazing that over a century ago he wrote that. So, without any further ado, we will be now showing you a short 10-minute play by resident playwright LM Macy. And please join us afterwards for a short talkback with the artists. So stay tuned now for Combustible, a sanitized love story.
Worst anniversary ever.
No argument there.
No question. You're kidding, right?
Open wide.
Thank you.
That anniversary that we went to the Mall of America in the blizzard, that was pretty bad.
Don't even.
Just trying to cheer you up, jeez.
I don't want to be cheered up. I'm pissed off and I have a right to be cranky. I cooked our special dinner. Set a beautiful table with cloth napkins and those futzy little salad forks.
It was very nice.
Nice?
Exquisite. It was exquisite.
Yes, it was.
The ultimate triumph in thematic, color-coordinated tablescapes.
All I asked of you was to light the candles.
I was going to. You're the one who wanted to wipe down the wine bottles after I got them home.
Oh, we're going there, are we?
I mean,
We agreed. Everything gets sanitized that comes into the house.
yes, okay. But the wine needed time to breathe. I needed to open the bottle.
So you're saying that our night in the ER was my fault?
No, I am just saying that I would have lit the candles after I opened the wine. You're the one who didn't want to wait.
The table was ready. The dinner was ready. Everything was ready.
Except the wine.
And our romantic candlelight.
You have no patience.
Says the guy who couldn't wait half a minute to open a bottle of red.
Oh my God.
One strike of a match.
It's like a slow motion film.
My hands just exploded into flames.
Maybe you over sanitized.
What?
That hand sanitizer is a serious accelerant.
You tackled me to the ground.
You were on fire. I was putting you out.
With the dog's
I
blanket.
just grabbed the first thing.
I still smell like burned, wet dog.
Listen, let's not talk about it now, okay? It was horrific, yes, but it is still our anniversary. Look, got snacks, drinks. We still have a little time. I thought maybe we could relax, watch some TV.
Oh, okay, but that's a nice idea.
All right, maybe catch the end of the game.
You want to watch sports?
Well, I just thought.
I nearly burned to a crisp and you want to watch a football game?
I just thought that we could relax.
What if I would rather watch a movie?
Oh, not some soppy movie, not after tonight, not after what we went through.
On our anniversary.
Yeah, I thought the romantic part was pretty much over.
Over?
That's not what I mean.
So you think the romance is over?
No, I just meant that tonight, after what we went through tonight, maybe we should take things easy.
You want to take things easy?
Yeah. No complicated discussions, no major decisions, just you and me together.
Well, I could see your point.
You can.
Yeah. Maybe we could just chill a while.
Right. So, how are you feeling?
My hands are burnt. My head caught on fire.
Yeah, that happened, but I put you out.
You did put me out.
I wasn't going to let you burn.
Oh, you saved my life. You're my hero.
Yes, I am.
You're my superhero. I'm picturing you in tights right now.
So, how are you feeling?
I'm starting to feel really good. What was in those pills?
Better living from modern chemistry.
What?
None.
Why don't you turn on the game?
You want me to put on the game?
You could catch the end.
Hey, I didn't miss it.
Oh, I'm glad, sweetie.
Okay, catch it. Oh, you should have had that.
Where is that sound coming from? Nobody's in the stands.
Oh, sound effects, can't.
Oh.
What?
I never really noticed how tight their uniforms are.
What?
All the muscles flexing and ripping.
I mean,
Oh, sweetie, look at number 31. Just look at that tight butt. You could bounce a corner off those guys. Come on, 31. Come on. Come on. Come on, turn around.
maybe we should watch a movie.
No, no, no. This is good. You love it. What?
Yeah, let's see what's on HBO.
Oh. Oh, this is a good movie. I love this movie.
Okay.
It's so sad when he dies in the end.
He dies.
It's just so sad.
It's okay.
But they really loved each other.
I know.
And he dies.
Yeah, pretty sad.
I love you, Schmoopy. You take such good care of me.
I look upon it as my sacred duty.
I was on fire tonight.
Yeah, you certainly were.
Poof! Like spontaneous combustion.
Yeah, it was just like that. Why don't you just rest now? Honey.
What a game. 30-29. We'll come back and try and wrap up.
Hello, everyone. Well, we hope that you enjoyed that hour of comedy during this time of, getting back, but still no masks. Joined by Lynn Marie Macy, David Tillestrand and Lisa Ferraro down there, Greg Horton and Roxanne Kramer, and of course, Rachel Tiemann, our host from Brooklyn Public Library.
And I'm tuning in also.
And Judith Jaros' audio, my partner and co-producing artistic director.
And before we begin the feature, I just wanted to remind everyone that this is being recorded before we start the interactive part.
Perfect.
Thank you, Rachel.
While we're waiting for chat questions, I think it might be kind of fun to just chat for a little bit. I was amazed that Shaw wrote that piece in 1912. And then Lynn Marie Macy wrote her piece in 2020.
2020.
And I also want to underscore the fact that Lynn Marie Macy edited both pieces, and also that Scott Macy directed Combustible. Their work is much appreciated, much more than we can say here. So, thank you.
And the rest of our artists have all been with us for many years. Greg Horton and Roxanne Kramer and Lisa Ferraro and David Tillestrand are all part of the Theater 2020 family. And if anyone is interested in seeing us live when we come back, that's the caliber of talent we get. So looking forward to those times. Meanwhile, we really appreciate the library keeping our Hearthside reading series, which we've done with them, I think about 8 years now, 8 or 9. And we look forward to being with them in person again too, when all is settled and they're in their brand new space. Ooh, that's exciting. Brand new state-of-the-art space in Brooklyn Heights. Just still being built.
going to be very exciting, and we'll have a bigger multi-purpose room than we've had before. So y'all are going to
Yay!
be people
Real
back.
theater, yay! Anybody in the audience have any questions for the artists or the playwright?
You can go ahead and type it in the chat. If
Don't be shy.
right now I don't see any questions in the chat, but
I love the dog picture. Who's that? That's awesome. Okay. Martha Foley, Henry Arnold, you have a question? You senior intellectuals there.
Or even a comment.
Or even a comment.
Actually have a question. How do you keep yourself feeling engaged with your fellow performer when you're doing a Zoom video like that?
Good question.
that is a very good question. I can speak. It's very difficult, really, because you don't have immediate feedback at all. There's always some sort of delay, and you're sitting in your own little space, in your own little office. I have Hawaii in the background, but normally it's just a curtain, and it's just there's nothing but a little room and your camera, and it's very, very different.
I had a slight benefit in that I could hear Roxanne in the other room. We were in two different locations in the apartment, so I could kind of hear her, but it still wasn't quite talking directly.
Right.
We have a question. Martha Foley asks, how did you find the Shaw play? And that's a good question. And Lynn, maybe you have an answer for that.
Well, I love this play, the Shaw play. He wrote many one acts that are just delightful. So we had explored this one other time, so we were familiar with this piece, and we thought it would be perfect to put in our reading over Zoom. So that was, it was just fun. And there's some other pieces that I think we're going to explore in the future too.
Theater 2020, really, like Sondheim and Shakespeare, we're very, very attached to George Bernard Shaw. And he was just an amazing, I think he was an alien drop-in. He was so ahead of his time and so articulate, and the things that he talks about, why are we still talking about women's rights? But there you go, and racism and all this. But he addressed all that stuff so long ago and so brilliantly, like Shakespeare, with the same facility of language. We're very fond of Shaw. And from a producer's standpoint, let's get real, Shakespeare and Shaw have no royalties. They are public domain. So not only are they brilliant, you don't have to, there's not the additional financial burden when you produce them. Although we love new plays too, which is why we have a resident playwright, and we tout the talents of LM Macy, who's also been with us for many years. So.
And I should shout out that Sarah Adrian Solo said, great job, thank you, it was fun. And Martha Foley said the actors were amazing, thank you both. And Miss Reyes says, thank you. It's something, I guess she was responding to her Afghan hound. I didn't see that picture, but I guess
it's up on the screen. It's pretty cute.
Oh, I see. Right.
It's either somebody's hippie teenage son or it's their pet.
Well, we were kind of celebrating couples during today's performances, and so the experience with David and Lisa was really, really fun too, because we thought, we would actually just do the play because they could play husband and wife and be husband and wife on the same camera. So that was a different experience too. It's, compared to Zoom when everybody's in a different space, they were able to do that together in that short piece. And that was
very naturally that dialogue came.
Yes.
So real, so connected.
And I just love the idea of it being combustible, because we were so into putting it on everything for a while. We were so afraid it was just, you buy tons and tons of it and bottles of it and put it everywhere because nobody knew. And I guess our former president wanted us to put it in our bodies too, because, whatever, but
the turnip.
Yeah, really. Melanie
as I call him.
Melanie said, knowing we are close to getting live in-person theater, it was just the thing to get me more excited. And that's true.
Yeah.
We are seeing that things are starting to open up, although, it does take a lot of lead time to get a theater going. I know Broadway has announced that they're going to start the second week of September, but, that's because they can start rehearsals now, and it takes a long time to get things going. So we're excited about thinking about the future, but it's a long process.
Stay tuned for more. Anyone who goes to our website, get on our email list. We don't send a lot of them. We do not share your information with anyone, and you'll be notified of upcoming events. We will be doing more. On average, we do 4 a year with the library, and we will continue online until we can be in person again. But please, we're going to have more fun stuff coming up. So check in on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Theater 2020 is on all of those, as well as at the website. So,
And we have I was going to take a little photo of everybody, so I'm wondering if you all can just hang in there for a second, and I will print screen, but I don't know if print screen really works. So I'm going to do a print screen now. So everybody smile. Yay.
everybody who's on screen smile.
And then we'll take a photo too. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take a photo as well. That's old school.
While David's doing that, I want to add that Theater 2020 is we're professional union theater, but we are very committed to community outreach. We do a lot of things in the park and library and such for free, but if you want to donate anything at all, that is very helpful. You can do that on our website. There's a big donate button at the top. And I just want to say that anything you donate, be it $5 or $5,000, it's all tax deductible to the extent allowed by law. So it's a win-win. You're helping us during these difficult times, and you also get a tax deduction fully. So something to think about. Meanwhile, we're still doing it for free, so don't worry. If you can't afford anything, we love you anyway.
And if anybody has any more comments, I will just give a few more seconds to see, and then I think, Rachel, we can wrap. But I do want to thank you all for attending. It was a lot of fun.
I'd like to say it was such a pleasure to see the work of Greg and Roxanne and Lynn Marie and David in that piece. It was really just seamless, so well done, so engaging. And, there's a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so impressive how you handled it and made it so engaging. I think that people aren't, because of social media and all these different ways of, sort of getting entertainment, people aren't as used to sitting and just listening to one person talk like that. And you made it so easy and delightful, really, to find out what's going to happen. It was like a really, back and forth, and it was really, really delightful. Really, it was. And like you're saying, there were deep thoughts here. There were,
yes,
really interesting how Shaw's able to do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for articulating that so well, Lisa, and thank you for what you said. It's really important to us that the artists are appreciated, and not everyone can articulate it that well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I must say, the Ferraro-Tillistrand comic duo was wonderful. So.
They're going to hit the road as soon as Anya's in college.
Yes. I think we should probably wrap it up. People are saying thank you, so I think they're leaving us. So let's, Rachel, thank you as well. And
thank you, Rachel, the library. Thank you for our artists. Thank you for our producers. You're welcome. Yes. And artists, I will be contacting you this week with the email about something very specific. So watch your emails.
And everybody look at the camera and smile. Everybody smile. Smile. Perfect. So thank you all very much. I think it was very successful, and thank you, audience, as well. Some very familiar faces.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you all so much for joining us today for the Theater 2020 Hearthside Reading Series. We've had a great time, and on behalf of Brooklyn Public Library, I'd like to thank you all for coming. And if you live in the Brooklyn Heights community, come check us out. Brooklyn Heights Library is doing lobby service in the Center for Brooklyn History.
Gorgeous building, gorgeous
And
building.
we're just in the lobby. It's the Brooklyn Heights staff. So all of the staff from the library is in the lobby offering holds, pickup, and book return. While the Center for Brooklyn History itself isn't open yet, the staff of Brooklyn Heights is serving our community with holds, pickup, and book returns until we get to our new space. So again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. Enjoy the fabulous weather. And thank you again to Theater 2020 for another wonderful performance. Thank you all for joining us.
Yay!
Bye.